Welcome to Never Again Is Now, a podcast about anti Semitism. I am Evelyn Marcus. My co host Phyllis Zimbler Miller cannot join us today. The Bondi Beach terror attack on Jews in Sydney, Australia during Hannukah last December shocked the world. We speak with Linda Margolin Royal, who lives in Sydney, about the impact of the attack and about the launch of her novel in the United States, The Star on the Grave. Linda, welcome back to Never Again Is Now podcast. We had you on the show half a year ago when you first spoke about your book. Now it's going to be launched in the United States, so we're happy to have you back. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I wish I could be saying that I'm delighted to be speaking to you. I am about the launch of my book, which is bittersweet because it's taken me 2 years and a lot of pushback because of October 7 to get a Jewish author with a Jewish themed book into the United States. But I've managed with a
Great.
non-Jewish publisher who are
Wow.
very respectful, and that's what it's taken. Um, and also, I'm here to talk to you about the terrible tragedy of the massacre that happened. It's 2 months now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. How are you doing yourself after that
Look,
massacre?
everyone had their own response and their own process. A lot of people I know went into themselves, got very depressed, got very anxious, and very fearful. So I only live about a 2-minute drive from Bondi Beach. And so this whole area is predominantly Jewish. And so we had police helicopters surveying, doing surveillance all hours of the day and all hours of the night. So it was really like living in a sci-fi movie.
Mm.
We still have them regularly on Shabbat holidays. President Herzog was just here, so there was a lot of police presence and a lot of Palestinian rallies. Um, Personally, I am a doer, so I was very shaken the first few nights, waking up in tears, and
Mm.
then that turned to anger very quickly.
Mhm.
And I decided I'm not going to take this and that we need to do something about it. And I'm ex-advertising, I'm an ex-copywriter, so my mind straight away went into overdrive on how to tackle this anti-Semitism um, in a productive way by marketing ourselves as something really good and positive, because that's where we're losing. We're losing in the media war.
Yes, we certainly are. Maybe not in the military war
Yeah.
in the Middle East, but certainly in the media war. And the hatred builds up and then leads to an awful event like you have experienced in
Yeah.
Sydney.
Yeah.
So, but let's start with your book. Your novel, The Star on the Grave, will now be released in the United States. After pushback, you said, "Who's? Can you please tell us again what your novel is about and who the publisher is who bravely publishes
Yeah.
it?"
My brave publisher, and I don't think it's brave because it's just a Holocaust story. Well, it's
Oh,
based on a Holocaust story. It has nothing to do with Gaza or geopolitical situation in the Middle East. So The Star on the Grave is inspired by the true story of my family's escape and rescue by a righteous among the nations called Chiune Sugihara, and another one, Jan Zwartendijk, a Dutch diplomat, who were both stationed in Lithuania as refugees were pouring across from Poland into Lithuania in 1940. I won't go into the details, but the two of them together managed to issue illegal visas to Japan with an end destination of Curacao, which is a Dutch colony
mhm.
near Venezuela. And they saved 6,000 Jews,
Wow.
including my father and grandparents. So I owe my life to this man
Yes.
and the lives of my children. And so I wanted to honor him, and I decided to write a movie first. And then in the meantime, the book has appeared. COVID hit, and I started writing the book because no one was going to the cinema, and the book really took off, which will help the movie and or TV series, which now got in production. So it's set in 1968, and it's a journey back for a young girl that doesn't know she's Jewish and finds out she is, and wants to go back to Japan with her grandmother to thank the man to whom they owe their lives. And it's a journey back to closure for her because she's living with a very disconnected, traumatized father, and she doesn't know where the trauma came from. So she has to learn all about her heritage and about the Holocaust.
Yeah, that sounds like a remarkable story, and also
It's
the
been very well received. It's a bestseller here,
Hmm,
and it won the 2025 Australian Jewish Writers Award for fiction.
congratulations with that.
Thank you.
And also the part of it being history in Holocaust history in and then related to Japan is pretty unique. I think I haven't heard of that before. So
No, I
there's
think it's a unique story, and I think that's also why it's been embraced. People do call him the Japanese Schindler, but I don't like that. I think you can't, it's just because it's a righteous act, it doesn't define every righteous act. He's not Schindler, he's Sugihara, but it just gives you an idea of the scale and the fact that he doesn't have the celebration and presence that Schindler has, and he only has that because Spielberg took Thomas Keneally's book and made it into a movie,
Mhm.
which is what my agenda is to make him a household name.
Yes, yes. Let's hope the movie world picks this up soon.
Yeah.
um, let's uh, um, talk about what happened at Bondi Beach. Where were you when the terror attack happened at Bondi Beach last December, and what happened during the
So
attack?
I have an amazing story because my house is across the road from a park where there were three Chabad celebrations for Hanukkah.
Hmm.
One was across the road from my house, literally across the road. The other one was down at Bondi Beach, and the other one was in a shul about 2 or 3 minutes away. Um, you can hear the cheering and the singing and everything from the one across the road from me. It's very loud. Chabads, they like their song and dance, and it was beautiful. You could hear it all.
Hmm.
I was sitting with our best friends, and we were just about to get some takeout for dinner.
Hmm.
Um, and so all of a sudden, there was no more music across the road. And we thought, hmm, that's very odd. Maybe they're about to do some speeches or light the Hannukah, but it wasn't time to do that. It was just before then. And so we thought, well, we'll just go down the road and get some food. So the lady and I went down. And then she all of a sudden got a phone call from her daughter in a panic. Her daughter's married, and she's got a daughter and a son, and her son's 24. And he was down at the Hannukah event in Bondi Beach, which is 2 minutes down the road. And he was doing communal security.
Oh.
And the daughter said, Mum, I just got a text message from my brother saying I'm okay, but now I can't get onto him. And she was in a big panic. And my
Hmm.
friend said, what does that mean? And she said, haven't you heard? There's a massacre. There are people being shot like
Mm.
at point blank range. So obviously, my friend went to a complete panic because her son was down there unprotected.
Yeah.
And we tried to get home, and then my husband called me and said, when you're coming up the street, call me because apparently the gunman or one of them is on his way up to our neighborhood because it's so close to
Right.
the other Chabad celebration. So call me because I'll open the garage, the remote, very quickly so you can come inside. So we didn't actually know if we were safe to get back home. And then it spread that that was a rumor and that they'd been taken down very quickly because the
Mm.
police came and they'd
What
been taken down.
what
So, yeah.
what a horrible, horrible set of moments for you and your friend.
horrible. And for
Yeah.
them, I mean, thank God he was okay. But this kid, 24 years old, untrained as a paramedic, was unfortunately forced into a situation where he was doing resuscitation on the little girl, Matilda, who passed
Mm,
away. And so
mm,
he has terrible trauma.
yeah.
Um, they're all getting counseling, but
Yes.
and a friend of mine is a coroner, so she was involved with all the process that was going on between the Chevra Kadisha and the hospitals with the patients and the deceased. And she said it was something like no one's ever seen before. They couldn't even identify most of them.
Oh my goodness.
It
That's
was,
terrible,
yeah. I
terrible.
think that's what the world needs to understand. It was, they weren't just shot like in the movies, bang, bang, you're dead. They were shooting with hunting rifles, with bullets that designed to cause maximum damage. And
How
so the
many
people,
attackers? Two?
two attackers,
Two attackers.
father and son. I mean, let's go out for a Sunday afternoon, son. Okay, let's go down and massacre Jews at a celebration. That's how sick. The
Unbelievable.
son survived, and the father was taken out.
Um, have you or others in the Australian Jewish community seen something like this coming?
Yes, our whole Jewish community and the Israeli government, officials in the Israeli government, whether it was Secret Service or I don't know, have been warning our government for 2 years. The
Really?
second October 7 happened, you probably know the next day on the steps of our opera house, there was this, it went worldwide with the Palestinians chanting, gas the Jews, F the Jews.
Yes.
Um, that had been orchestrated, so documents were leaked that had been orchestrated. We hadn't even gone into Gaza. They knew what they were doing straight
Right.
away. And
Right.
so the hatred began then. And the government didn't shut that down. And that's when it all started. And that's the fault of the government, as well as 100,000 people marching on our harbour bridge.
Wow.
Yeah, Palestinian rally. And they could have stopped that too.
Mhm.
So, as our representatives have been saying to the government for 2 years, it always starts with hate speech and with swastikas and with car bombings and graffiti. Then it goes to burning of sacred places like our synagogues, which is what happened, a daycare center. Um, and so we knew, unfortunately, something bad was going to happen and it was imminent, but nobody ever imagines it on this scale.
No.
And the only reason why it's had the exposure that it's had, which is, I called it divine intervention in a bizarre way. And I say, unfortunately, there's always sacrificial lambs, and there were 15 sacrificial lambs. It didn't, if it would have happened at either of the other Chabad locations, we would not have had the exposure we had. It would have just been, oh, well, some Jews died in some suburb that we've never heard of in the world. But it didn't. It happened at iconic Bondi Beach. There were three non-Jewish victims. The whole Bondi community, not Jewish community, was completely overwhelmed. And then the entire Australian community was overwhelmed as well. Surf lifesavers were involved, paramedics, there were policemen that were injured. So it was an Australian event, not just a Jewish event. And because of that, there's now a groundswell of support that we've never seen before.
Mhm. Mhm. What type of support do you get?
Um, the whole community came together. Within days, there were lines around the block donating blood,
Oh,
uh, just general Australians. Um, the Australian non-Jewish community going and laying flowers, putting stones at the massacre site. The Australian government, the local government, believe it or not, Chabad, because they're so powerful, got them to set up a little campaign called the Mitzvah campaign, and the advertisement on TV had to explain to the non-Jews what a mitzvah was. Um, so they set up a little QR code or a little thing they could go to perform a mitzvah. So
mhm,
these incredible things.
mhm.
Um, And it was non-stop for 10 days to 2 weeks on all the free-to-air television stations, on BBC, on worldwide news. I was interviewed by BBC because I went down there with photos of my parents as refugees on Bondi Beach, because Bondi Beach was very iconic to the Jewish people right from the start. In fact, the middle of Bondi Beach, divides the beach in two, are a set of stairs where young folk meet, and the Jewish community used to call them the Jerusalem Steps.
Mhm.
And you'd say, "I'll meet you at Little Jerusalem on Sunday." So it was very, very iconic place for the Jewish community as well.
Mhm. Mhm. And how does the Jewish community in Australia feel these days? Do they feel, is it predominantly the support that
I think,
dominates what they feel, or is it the
look,
build up that wasn't stopped to the build up
it,
to this event that wasn't stopped by Australia?
it's both. As a Jew, you're always cautious, you're always suspicious, you're always paranoid. You're always wondering, where do we run now? For 2 years, talks at dinner parties and on Saturday nights has been, um, yeah, are we renewing passports to, where our parents came from to have a safe haven? Who's making Aliyah? Um, is the US better? Where do we go? And asking the few non-Jews that were in support of us, would you hide us? I mean, it was really getting that bad. Anyway, what's the feeling now? We do feel cautiously optimistic, although the government has been horrendous. They've been forced into a royal commission to investigate how this was allowed to happen, because these two gunmen were training in the Philippines,
Mhm.
and he owned 6 hunting rifles, the father.
Hmm.
And our gun laws are much stricter than yours. So the question was, how was he able to do that?
Yeah.
So all these questions need to be answered. So there's a royal commission happening, but Albanese, the prime minister, was saying no for 3 weeks, and we were screaming. And the whole community, the whole Australian community got involved. Sports people, people in the legal profession, um, senior government officials were all saying, demanding this royal commission. So he had no choice.
So it was
So we feel
public opinion that forced the government to
to
further
take
look
it.
into this.
Yeah. It's settled down because police presence has been escalated, and they don't tolerate demonstrations now. They'll,
Mm.
at any given moment, say it's illegal to demonstrate this weekend. So things, they've calmed, but we all believe it's not going to get better soon. It might get worse again before it gets better. We feel like we're lulled into a false sense of security because we're Jews.
Right. So the perpetrators were Australian Muslims. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the has the have the authorities looked into that aspect? That
That's
what's
what they're trying to do. That's what they're trying to do, to try and work out how long they have been, who groomed them. There are certain suburbs in Sydney where these factories of hate originate, and there are imams that are preaching hatred in their mosques on a weekly or if not daily basis.
so,
We have been warning about particular individuals, and we have been saying deport them for years now. That's where they were from. I think they lived close to the mosque. I'm not sure, but yeah. So this stuff all needs to be investigated. There are schools now. They're discovering they've just closed a school down in rural New South Wales, which is the state I'm in, which was an Islamic school, which was grooming and preaching Jew hate. So it's all, you know, undercover, and now they've got to get to the bottom and expose it all.
And was that monitored at all before this happened, or not at all in Australian
No,
society? No.
no. See, one of the major electorates where the foreign minister and the prime minister used to frequent because they wanted the votes.
I
Uh,
see.
they supported them, covered it up, whatever. They turned a blind eye because they're politicians and all they cared about were votes. The general Australian population, if you interview them and you say, how many Jews do you think there are in Australia? They go, I don't know, 1 million, 2 million. There's 110,000 Jews in
Yeah,
Australia. There's 1 million Muslims.
yeah, yeah. So the electoral interest is in the Muslim
That's right.
community. Yes.
Yeah.
And the person who stopped at some point um, the perpetrators, he
Yeah.
was a Muslim too. Is that correct?
Yes. So amazingly, his name was Ahmed Al Ahmed, um, a hero now. He was trained as a Syrian policeman. So
Mm.
he knew how to apprehend the guy. So
Mhm.
he wrestled him and he got his gun and apparently tried to shoot him. Not quite clear about what happened there, whether he decided he couldn't take the law into his own hands and kill someone and shoot them, or whether the gun was not loaded. But he apprehended him and obviously saved lives. So
Yeah.
incredible, and incredible
Yes.
that he was, a good Muslim. I mean, we all
Yes.
know there are good Muslims.
And do you know more? Was he interviewed publicly? Do you know more about what he saw, what he thought, why he did what he did?
He was interviewed. He had 5 surgeries, so it was a long time before we heard from him. Um, he basically said he saw a human being killing other human beings, and to him that was inhumane, and you don't let that happen. So
Yes. Yeah.
he did it because it was the right thing to do.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes. When I think about it, at the one hand, as Jews, we experience a threat from mostly coming when it's about physical threats. It's mostly coming from Muslim communities these days.
yeah,
At the same time, we have to realize that not every Muslim in that Muslim community would join the violence or approve of the
no,
violence. And that's what's being illustrated in this story. So it's also hard for us to deal with
yeah,
because the numbers say be super alert for Muslim communities when you talk about anti-Semitism and
mm,
especially violent anti-Semitism. At the same time, not every Muslim would attack us.
no.
So
And I think that's what we need to understand and make the world understand that not every Jew is like every other Jew. We are obviously the big debate now is, the world has decided that Zionism is a very convenient way to express their anti-Semitism because they can say, "Oh, I'm not anti-Jewish, I'm just anti-Zionist." But we all know that if you're a Zionist, you are a Jew generally, not
mhm,
always. There are very respectful non-Jews who are Zionists as well. But in general, most Jews are Zionists because Israel is our homeland and our safe place. And we realize that now
mhm,
more than ever.
yes.
So yeah, it's the interesting thing here was that nobody cared about dead Israeli Jews, but we weren't Israeli Jews, we were Australian Jews. And so there was a marked difference that this happened on Australian soil at an iconic place. We were Bondi Beach Jews. We were part of the Australian community. And so all of a sudden, I think broader Australia took a look and went, wow, this has gone too far. This
Mhm.
conflict has come to our own doorstep. This is crazy. Like Australians being murdered. These are not just Jews, these are Australians.
Yes. So, could you tell us a little bit more about Bondi Beach and its role in the Jewish community? It was a place
Oh, yeah.
of meeting, a meeting place, you say,
So I
but
can show you. Well, first of all, I'll just show you this. That's
that's
my
your book.
book. That's my
A little
book. That's
higher, a little higher.
a little higher because I
Yeah,
can't
that's
see
it.
the black
That's
strip
it.
across my
Yes.
screen. Yeah.
The star on the grave.
Now on the grave. So I've got photos that I went down to Bondi Beach the day after, armed with photos. I went through my late parents' photo album and I got photos to show how important it was as a meeting place. My mum showed me these photos when she was still alive. So there's my mum on Bondi Beach. She must have been about
Mm.
18, 19 years old with her friends, all Jews. My father as a refugee on the promenade at Bondi Beach in the
Mm.
early 50s. So it was, yeah, and another one. And this is very close to where the massacre happened, unfortunately. Um, so this is, so they settled, they came as refugees. Bondi Beach was working class, inexpensive. And so they came there because they had no money. Um, and then it just became a meeting place. It represented freedom. I mean, it's beautiful down there. It's a gorgeous beach. And so when the refugees started arriving, first post-war, mine came during the war because they were saved from the Holocaust. Then the refuseniks started settling down there too. So a huge Russian community, which is still there. And that's why most of those victims were Russian Jews, because that
Mm.
was the Chabad of Bondi, which is predominantly Russian.
I see.
So, yeah, it has huge significance to
So
the
it
Jewish.
was a Jewish neighborhood
Yeah,
of Jewish refugees who found safety in Australia and who kind of, finally relaxed, I can
yeah.
imagine, and
It's
relaxed
written in
at
my
Bon.
book. I
Yeah.
mean, if people read my book, they'll see in the first or second chapter, I've got this 21-year-old comparing her suntan with her, because she's a nurse, with her nursing friend who's not Jewish, and then talking about Bondi Beach and that they meet down at Bondi Beach and that there's a small Jewish community that meets on the steps. And I've already written the second book, which is the backstory in 1940. And I've written my grandmother and my father settling in Bondi Beach as refugees. And this is way before the Hannukah massacre. This is
Yes.
just because it's part of who I am and who we are. So it's chilling when that happened 3 weeks after my book went to the publisher for
Yes.
consideration.
It is.
Yeah, that really hit home.
Yes.
Yeah,
Um, you you already told us about how the Australian authorities reacted and the
yeah.
public reacted after the massacre. How did the media in Australia react to the terror attack?
Surprisingly pro-Jewish for
Hmm.
the first time. Well, definitely for the first time in 2 years, but for the first time ever, the the media was so sympathetic. I think the thing that resonated with most of us who have non-Jewish friends, I had people calling me and emailing me that I hadn't heard from in 30 or 40 years,
Hmm.
out of the blue. And my friends had the same, and very respectful work colleagues and businesses. The non-Jews were more profoundly and deeply affected than us because they're not used to it. They're not used to persecution and they don't ever expect it. We
No.
are always in the back of our minds expecting something to happen to us. It's just, I guess it's genetic, it's generational trauma, whatever it is. So that I think was the big difference. They were incredibly sensitive and sympathetic. I mean, you had news presenters in tears and they were down there for days and days. And it was the first news item on every news bulletin for 10 days. And it was all in our favor. And we were all saying, it's going to change, it's going to change. When's it going? Because there's the paranoia. When's it going to change? When's it going to turn? It can't stay like this because everyone hates Jews. So it's going to turn. But
And
so
how
far,
is that now? How are the media now?
pretty good. With the Herzog visit, though, obviously there's one network, the ABC network, which are particularly anti-Jewish. So when there were Palestinian demonstrations, they were focusing more on the Palestinian demonstrations than the fact that Herzog was here not as a politician, but to mourn with us as a community. And they didn't focus at all on this incredible event we had with 8,000 people in an auditorium and him talking with and the daughter of one of the victims. And so there was no footage of that on the news, just of the Palestinian demonstrations and the police brutality. So now there's a big investigation into whether the police went over the line with their brutality to try and stop this violent demonstration, which they didn't. They were acting in the line of duty. So,
Right.
but
But now the police is the subject of investigation.
exactly.
Yes.
So, but all in all, it's still quite positive. So,
That's
fingers crossed,
that's good.
fingers crossed.
Has have you and others in the Australian Jewish community noticed the acts of support from Jewish communities outside Australia, around the world?
Yes. So, I
Mm.
mean, there's amazing support, particularly, I believe, from the United States, where there's been an international fundraiser for victims and the families of the victims.
Linda?
The grounds.
Yes, we had a little uh, uh, internet glitch. So my question was, uh, did you notice the support, acts of support from Jewish community or from around the world, from other
Yes.
Jewish communities around the world,
Yeah.
after the massacre at Bondi Beach? And you said yes, from the United States, and
Yes. And then from Israel, obviously, because they're in solidarity with us, because we've got shared trauma and shared grief. So they've been pretty amazing. And also, Netanyahu has been very scathing, obviously, of our leadership because they warned them and we warned them.
yes, yes. And I happened to be during Hannukah. I happened to be in Switzerland in a mountain village,
Yeah.
and there was, and I joined a Hanukkah celebration there of a Jewish community of people who of Swiss people,
Hmm.
Swiss Jews, and they paid tribute to they did a memorial part in the Hanukkah service for
Wow.
Bondi Beach, and kept 2 minutes of silence and prayed.
Amazing.
Yes, and I could see how affected they were by what had happened. And
Mm. Yeah. I mean, really, it's the biggest terrorist attack or gun attack that's ever happened on Australian soil. Um, and yeah, it's incomprehensible that it happened at a place that represents to us, freedom and relaxation and safety,
yeah,
far from the shores of the Holocaust, which is why, we have the largest population of Holocaust survivors outside of Israel. And most of them, including my father-in-law, told my husband he just chose somewhere that was the furthest place on Earth away from Europe. So my grandparents, I find myself daily looking up to the heavens, thinking what they would be thinking. Like
Yeah.
that this is unimaginable, not only in Australia, but in the exact spot they chose to relocate to and settle in Bondi Beach. I think
Um,
they would not, they would find it incomprehensible.
yes.
Yeah.
That gives me chills.
Yeah.
Um, what happened to anti-Semitism in Australia since the Bondi Beach attack?
Look, obviously, there is a massive police presence. And so there are going to be incidents. There was one very soon after in Melbourne. Melbourne has taken the brunt of the anti-Semitism since October 7 because they're a lot more visual. It's a more orthodox community.
Mhm.
Um, they did have something at a synagogue down there, and they had a rabbi's car on Hannukah graffitied and I think burnt as well. Um, apart from that, look, we have such a presence, such a police presence, and our communal security group working overtime. Um, all the schools have had counselors in, Israeli counselors, a team of Israeli trauma
Mm.
counselors have come
Mm.
to speak to the children, to the victims, to the families. So has there been an increase in anti-Semitism? If there has, they are stopping it and it's not getting to the media.
Okay.
But I'm sure there's constant threats. It's
Mhm.
just that they're being stopped rather than being carried out.
Okay.
Yeah.
What should we learn from the Bondi Beach attack?
We should learn from the Bondi Beach attack that when there is intel and we are telling our governments that there is a major threat and that something is imminent, governments need to listen.
Yeah.
And we need to learn that words and graffiti, as is historically shown, the next step is what we don't want, which is murder of innocent people,
Yeah.
because it always follows the same pattern, and it has, and that's what we need to learn. That as soon as we see that happening, and that also that it is a major threat worldwide. This Muslim extremism in every country, particularly in Europe at the moment, where they are just dominating communities. That they start with the Jews and then they go for the rest. When they say global intifada, they mean global intifada.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Well, this has been an amazing set of insights about what it was like at Bondi Beach during the Hanukkah massacre of last Hanukkah in December, and um, and also about your amazing book, The Star on the Grave, that will be released in the United States soon. Well, when will it be available in the United States?
So it should be available by definitely by the beginning of March as an ebook. We're just having some issues with Amazon because my Australian publisher has still dominating them there, so they have to take over the rights. The US has to take them over.
Hmm.
But the book is being printed now, ready to go, beginning of March. What I need people to do, please, this book is these are the themes: the fear of persecution in a new homeland, and connection to family and culture and faith and generational trauma. It's so relevant. I need people to go into bookstores anywhere through March, through April, and just go up and say, do you have The Star on the Grave by Linda Margolin Royal? And if they don't, encourage them to order it in, because we're only doing a small print run at first to see how it's accepted, and we need orders to come in. If you're in domestic airports, WH Smith, any of those little outlets, go in there and ask them, do you have The Star on the Grave? Or buy a copy and encourage them to order it in and get a copy from them.
So it's available in certain bookstores and online too, or not?
It will be online and will be in bookstores. We're hoping it will be in Barnes and Noble, Borders, all your favorite bookstores, wherever you are, New York, LA, Miami, but I need people to go in and ask for it by name, because then those bookstores, because there are so many, America is so big, I can do it much easier in Australia.
Yeah.
I need people to go in and physically ask for the book, which would be
Yes.
great. But in the meantime, it should be available pretty soon on Amazon. It's already available. It's the Australian version, and it's a little more expensive because it's not coming from the US, coming from Australia.
I see. I see. Well, I can't
And
wait.
the audio book is also available. So
Okay. I can't wait to read it, and I
thank you.
encourage everybody to ask for the book, buy it, read it, write a review.
Yes, write a review, Texas
Right,
or Goodreads, or whatever it is over there. Yep.
right. Linda, thank you so, so very much for this wonderful interview. Although the theme
Thank
was
you.
not so nice to
No,
talk about, but it's necessary that we hear about what happened at Bondi Beach. So thank you for all your information, insights, experiences. And I want to thank our listeners for listening to this interview. And we always encourage everybody every time to speak up against anti Semitism as an individual whenever you can, in your own way. And if you want to know more about Never Again Is Now podcast, about episodes and guests we had in the past, or about my co-host Phyllis Zimbler-Miller and me, go to our Never Again Is Now podcast channels on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeart, and you'll find former episodes there and more information. Thank you again, Linda, and I hope to see our listeners back in our next episode. Thank you.
thank you.